I want to say hi to everybody and welcome. I'm so glad because I know that there were a lot of other things going on. I'm so glad that you were able to come. This particular development is one that has actually presented to us before. And I think they presented to us before when we were doing in-person one as well. And I will tell you that I had kind of put it on hold on purpose because it had a multi-family type thing. And in the explanation of what that is about, we also have somebody who is here from planning that will talk to you about how some things say multi-family, but they really aren't. And so, and I would like for the person from Metro to do that first so that they can kind of, because they kind of know what's going on with that. And then Roy will present his, and he's got the owner as well, will present his deal, and I'll let you all talk and ask questions of him. First of all, I'd like to, okay, somebody is talking and I think you forgot to mute, or maybe you didn't mean to. But anyway, first of all, I know she's doing other meetings as well as helping us with this one. I want to always give homage to Rosie because she is helping us out and she does all the legwork behind. And I'm glad she's here with us today in one piece because some crazy person ran her off the road today and kept her going. So that happened. So I'm glad that she is well and she's with us. I see one of my most favorite people, John Honeysucker, is also here with us. He knows some about everything. He's helping out with Public Works now, but you know he's been in water, and I think he's getting ready to do something else fabulous. But if he wants to tell you about that, I'll let you tell him. I'll let you tell them about that. But I don't think it's official now, and his eyes are getting big, so maybe not. Okay. But I would also then like to introduce you to Amelia Lewis, who is here from Metro that will be talking to us about the multifamily zoning and how those different zonings come into play and what they kind of mean. So again, thank you everybody for being on there. And actually, Amelia, I'm sorry. I am going to turn it over. Well, do I have anybody from the mayor's office or anybody else that I need to recognize? Usually we have somebody here from the mayor's office. They are standing us up this time, probably because of the finance meetings going on. Okay, so Amelia, I'm going to turn it over to you now. Thank you.
Hi, thanks, council member. My name is Amelia and I am with the Metro Planning Department. And so I guess I'll start by saying I was supposed to start with the explanation about multifamily and kind of the different forms that multifamily can take. Is that correct? Okay, I see nodding, thanks. And so I think the term multifamily can encompass a wide range of different product types. So anything from townhomes that are detached to attached, whether that be smaller houses, essentially it just means there are multiple units on one lot. So this could even be one larger lot that has 4 what look like single family houses on it. They are just not functioning as single family houses because they aren't on their own lot, or they aren't classified as single family houses because they aren't on their own lot, but they could be, one family per unit type of situation. It's just how many units are on the lot. Is that a good starting explanation point?
I think so. I think that sounds good. So what we were really dwelling on is because I was holding some things back that said multifamily, because to me, that says apartments. And I do understand that that also can mean townhouses that are together. But the main thing that we were talking about today is how homes could be under that, but not be apartments. So I'm going to ask you to say that again, because you did say that, but explain that again, and then I guess I will get ready to open it up to our, well, he's not the developer. Yeah, well, I'll call him a developer because I can't figure out what else to call you, Roy, and let him explain that. And if I could ask you to stay on the line in case anybody has any questions, and just ask right quickly after you finish, before we go to Roy, if anybody has any questions. Okay, Amelia?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks, council member. So I guess, yes, multifamily can encompass apartment buildings. So, you know, your larger building with several units in it. It can also be townhomes where they're attached or unattached, even the smaller house type. So multifamily encompasses a wide range of unit types. It's just how many of them are on the lot is really where we start to see the multifamily come in. If it's one unit on one lot, it's technically single family. But as soon as we start to see multiple units, no matter what they look like on one lot, is when we start to classify them as multifamily. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer those now.
And if you have questions for her, just go ahead and speak up.
I will also stay around if any come up while Roy is talking, or any other questions about planning. But I will let Roy go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Amelia. Go ahead, Roy.
I appreciate it, council member. Amelia, are you familiar with the Hamilton Hills UDO? Have you looked at that at all prior to tonight's discussion?
Yes.
Okay, so for everybody that's listening, the property that I'm here representing is on Mount View Road. It's 5995 Mount View Road. It is, I'm gonna try to share screen. I'm terrible at this, so bear with me. I think I've got the UDO hopefully here. Can everybody see that? Okay, good deal. So this is the urban design overlay. I'm gonna go to the very top, which is a very rudimentary sketch, but this urban design overlay was approved, looks like it's Bill 2005. So this has been in effect for like 16 years. And this design overlay was put together by people within the community, people with planning commission, and you know, and a large number of people. And so the urban design overlay more or less set for this whole area that you see in red at Murfreesboro Road and Mount View Road, all that area in red, it sort of created a plan on how all of these properties were supposed to develop. And this plan is very elaborate. You can see there's an entire road network that runs through all of these properties here. And so within this UDO, urban design overlay, there was a whole bunch of mixtures of uses. There was multifamily apartments, there were townhouses, there were cottage houses, maybe a little bit of piece of commercial. There was open space, single family houses on large lots, single family houses on small lots. And so if you can see my cursor, my client owns this piece of property right here. And so when he came to me about developing his property, I pulled out this urban design overlay and I tried to put a plan together because I thought, well, you know, I'll do a specific plan. I sent it to the plan commission like, no, you don't do a specific plan on top of an urban design overlay. It's already sort of laid out. And so all you really do is you apply for a base zoning, and the urban design overlay more or less dictates how this would develop. So I'm going to stop right now, and if I say anything wrong, Amelia, could you correct me? Is that okay so far? Okay. So anyway, so we, basically the planning commission, I said, well, okay, well, what type of zoning would go into effect in order for this urban design overlay for you to be able to develop the property according to the design overlay? And it was RM9, was residential multifamily, 9 units per acre. Well, immediately that caused a lot of confusion, because generally people in the community, when they see RM, they think it's going to be an apartment site. And that's not really the case here. So the UDO basically lined up that this property would develop in a different manner. I'm going to go to a different drawing here, which really is a street network, which really is probably the best sketch that I see in here that probably helps us understand. So my client's property is this triangle right here, right there. And you can see there was a proposed street network that was going to take place within this triangle. And you can see this looks like all lots, okay? It doesn't look like multifamily use, although some of these small lots here, we're going to allow attached units, like attached townhouses. So that's more or less what the urban design overlay encourages. Now, there's a little rectangle right here that's a church and a cemetery. That connection will never take place. So that's not going to happen when this urban design overlay is developed. But this other network of roadways will begin to be established, so that when adjacent properties come online, they'll be able to connect. And as a matter of fact, council member Reverend Finn, who owns the property across the street, owns this piece of property, and he's also thinking about developing his property, which we would connect to him, and he would develop his property again based upon the urban design overlay. So I know that in many of the meetings that I've had with you, council member, and we actually had a meeting on this prior to COVID. I'm thinking it was like the first of 2020, over a year ago, almost a year and a half ago. And it was a very sparsely attended meeting. I think it was in the winter months. And then after that, COVID hit, and nothing really happened. And so I'm really glad that Amelia's here, because I think she can help people understand that although we're requesting the RM9 zoning, which is what planning says should be here, is that this plan will be dictated based upon the design overlay. Let me say there's something else. Okay, so one of the things that when we're doing a specific plan, we always talk about architecture. So within the urban design overlay, there's also standards for the development of this property that restricts height, square footages, lot sizes, and there's even architectural standards, and I'll go down to those briefly, that requires buildings to have, facades along the front that are primarily brick or stone. Even on the sides, bands of brick, or so it's not going to be like vinyl or anything like that. The architectural standards are all also set. In addition to architectural standards, there's like standards for mailboxes and signage and landscaping and open space. And so this urban design overlay is really a consistent, contiguous development plan for this entire area. So I'm going to stop right there and see what kind of questions we might have. Let Amelia add any comments that she might have that would correct what I said or make it more clear. But what we're simply asking for is a zone change request for 9.9 acres for basically this triangle here. This drawing shows sub-districts. This property is divided into several sub-districts. And I think that this sub-district 4 is probably the one that we're going to have most discussion about, because that sub-district does allow attached units, but my client is willing to not attach them. I think it can still be done in a manner that's consistent with the urban design overlay, but putting buildings closer together, but not necessarily attaching them. So I'm going to stop and field some questions or concerns and anything that Amelia might want to add. Thank you, Councilmember.
Mm-hmm. Amelia, I have a question for you. I understand that the urban overlay is there. And from what Roy said, you don't really need to put an SP over that, because there are other things that they already outline what should be in there. But suppose you want something in that area that is not in that overlay, or you don't want something in that area that is provided for in that overlay. Are there steps, and what are they for you to do something different?
Yeah. So to some extent, the UDO or the overlay is regulating similar things that an SP would, which is why in this area we typically recommend just a straight rezoning, because it's the property and future site plans would ultimately be guided by this UDO. In terms of, I think it would specifically depend on what kind of things you were looking for to be controlled or modified to see how we would be able to handle those.
So then if there was some modification wanted, then they would just have to take it back through planning to see if that would be able to be done. Is that what you're saying?
Yes and no. So I guess I would need to know more in terms of exactly what you're thinking that would be modified. Typically, when we have, when development occurs under the overlay, planning staff is reviewing them administratively, because the idea was that this plan was created by the community, and so we are just tasked with implementing it as it exists in the document.
So without knowing specifically, because this is a hypothetical, but if it were to be changed some way, it would be because the community is looking for something different. So I still didn't hear the answer then. How can that be done? Or what process would you have to go through in order to do something different from what the overlay allows?
Again, I think it would depend on what you were trying to change, and if that change could be something that you work out with Roy, and that it's still consistent with the UDO. So if it's something like each of these sub-districts that's on the screen has a different unit type that's permitted in it. If there is something that, you want this unit type to be along Mountain View Road, and it's permitted within the UDO, and Roy's client is willing to do that, that is not something that would need to necessarily be modified. If it was something significantly different, as in you had a lot of problems with maybe the architectural and design standards that are in the UDO today, you would have to look at a different option for rezoning the property, is my best guess.
Okay, so we'll be through the rezoning process.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, sorry to interrupt. To some extent,
No.
We want to use the plan that's already been created and adapted and developed and approved by council. And so that's kind of what, the process under a straight rezoning and then a review at site plan looks like. If it was something more specific than that, it's likely something that we as the planning staff would need to talk about, as long as it's, still meeting the goals of the UDO, because that lays over essentially on top of it as an overlay. So
Okay.
we would be checking. Yeah, sorry, does that make sense?
It does. And I think in essence, at the very least, what it has to do, if it's something that we want to change, so we'll have to end up going back to council. Because under urban overlay, I think it will allow for certain heights because that can happen in an urban area. And that may not be what we want in this area. Not that Roy even said that's what he's doing, but I'm just trying to see how, if there's something with the community that we want to change, how that would be changed. Roy, I have a question for you.
Yeah. Let me see if I can help.
have a question for you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, Tawana, is this for Amelia?
Well, I want to establish and make sure my basis of knowledge is right before they keep talking and I get more confused. So, Roy, I know you only represent Mr. Uryan, but I want to just understand, you want to rezone his property but not remove it from the UDO? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then I have some more questions for later. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I can help. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, council member, but I think probably one of the main concerns here is multifamily in its true form of attached units. And so this portion of the UDO has this brown strip here, which is considered to be sub-district 4. And sub-district 4, if you look at the elevations here, show attached units. And so if the community has a concern with attached units, then we could go back and modify the UDO and change what's allowed in this brown area, council member, to eliminate attached units, or maybe put detached units, or put a different unit type that the community's happy with. And that's done on a planning commission level. So, you know, we could still, at some point, we could modify the UDO, and then we could come back with the same request with our RM9 zoning, and it would be consistent. But I think that generally, and based upon all the meetings I've had in your district, I think though that's the concern, is that you have more townhouses or more attached units. And so you might want to change that to something other than attached units. Is that generally correct, generally?
So I have that question I had for you. I'm going to ask that, and then I'm going to open it up for other people. That,
Okay.
what you just said is a major concern, but it's not just that. It has to do with the crowdedness in our area and all the moving into our area, and the capacity for our area to take all of that. So even if we were talking about houses and it's another development with a whole lot of houses, there would be some challenges that we would have with that, because that's what the main thing is, not just the multifamily. But
Okay.
Roy, with this, I see you have some pictures and stuff there. And I understand that you said that brown area that's right next to where could be attached homes, your client has agreed that they could open it up and not have an attached home. So what you are bringing to me, this was the same thing. So in presenting it to the community, is it open enough that if the community talked to you about some specific things that they wanted and that they wanted to see, that you all are able to do that now?
Absolutely. We still want to fall within, and I guess we're required to fall within the general guidelines of the UDO, and that has a lot to do with connectivity and probably a mixture of uses and open space. There's an open space plan within this document, and I think even within this property, there's a section of open space. So I think that I could sit down with whoever you want to within the community, and we could look at the UDO and how it's presented now. And if we needed to make some changes to that, that could be done. It's not a council process, it's just a planning commission process. So we could provide that to the planning commission. The planning commission could look at it to make sure it's consistent with the rest of the UDO, and most likely help allow us to make modifications.
Okay. And I didn't have any specifics in mind. It's just that I wanted the community to be able to give some and not feel that whatever they're saying, there's no need of saying it. So I'm going to open it up now, and I can't really see any hands, except I see Larry has a hand, and then Tawana has a hand. And so after Larry and then Tawana, if no one is talking, then go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, thank you, council member. My first question is, Roy, is how many units are you planning? I mean, you've got 9, the RM9 allows 9 units per acre, and then you had 9 something acres. So, 80 plus.
I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna try to share again. I hope this works. Because I did just a sketch. Actually, I looked at the sketch of both of these. This is it. Hopefully, did that come up? I don't know if I hit share or not. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I took the UDO and I thought, okay, what could I put together that could be detached but still meet the parameters of the UDO? And so this is a sketch that I came up with. It has, I think it has 66 homes.
Okay.
So that's not quite 9 units per acre.
Right.
It's probably 7 or something. I don't think, based upon the standards of the UDO, based upon the need of the open space, based upon the need of the roadways and the alleys, that you're ever going to get to 9 units per acre. Now, if you did a multifamily section in that brown area where it's allowed, yeah, you probably could, but that's not what I know the community wants. And so we're not even trying to go there. So along and facing Mount View Road would be smaller, taller buildings, but they would they could be detached. And then this sketch was created to create maybe some open space along Mount View Road where you could walk through this community through some kind of open space back to these larger single family lots. So again, this is just an exercise. I actually had prepared this plan in order to submit like an SP when it's sort of, like it's not necessary, you're already covered. And I don't think I've ever seen an SP overlaid on a UDO. I don't think that would work. So anyway, I hope that helps answer your question, Larry. I get long-winded there. So
That's the first one. The second question, you commented that you've had several meetings with the community. What conversations have you had with the Hall Chapel Baptist Church right there?
I haven't. When I alluded to several meetings with the community, I'm sorry. I mean, I've had several meetings within your community on various things. I think there's only been 2 meetings on this particular piece of property, and I've not, the church, is that the small church on Mount View Road?
Yes.
Okay, so what happened is when my client purchased this property, basically most of where the cemetery is and even the parking lot was not on the church property. It was on the property that my client purchased. And so he donated that to the church. He dedicated those areas to the church, the cemetery and the parking area, because obviously they had historically used it and he couldn't use the cemetery and he certainly didn't want to leave the church without parking. So he dedicated it to them. So yes.
But I'm interested in what conversations you have had with the church members about this planned development.
I have not. My client may have, or his representative may have. I don't know how many people actually attend the church, but a great effort was made for them in order to provide them property that was in question.
Okay. We had Tawana next, and then I have Miss Carolyn after Tawana.
Hey there. So Roy, if I understand you correctly, what's on the screen now is the more current thought that you have about the way to use the property. And what you showed before showed an entire road system with different connections within that, and none of that lines up to this except for that I think it might be called Secretariat Drive or something like that. So I'm wondering how this, number one, I want to just remind everybody this is zoned, I think, agricultural right now. So there's a whole lot of sway here for the community. But number two, if these roads are all changed, it seems like it's changing everything for all the other properties as well. And then regarding this view that you have on the screen right now, you have an alley at the edge, at the boundary of the property, which means because it's on your property or your client's property, that alley, I presume, would not provide access to the residences on the next property, which means it's pavement just for the purpose of pavement rather than keeping that green space or something. I'm also interested in hearing more about percentages of green space and that sort of thing. Thank you.
Okay, so this, I'll go back to the other plan, but this roadway is pretty much exactly as was shown on the UDO as this roadway was as well. The UDO showed this road going this direction, and when the UDO was put together, I guess they didn't realize there was a church there and a cemetery there. So that road can't take place. So this road is on the UDO, this road is on the UDO, and these connections were also on the UDO. So this pretty much conforms with that urban design overlay. This, I think you're talking about this alley, Twana. So if that's not the alley you're talking about this alley? That alley, okay, yeah. What would have to happen is when this is put in, that alley would have to actually touch the property line. We couldn't do that and not allow somebody to connect to it. And I took Dr. Finn's property and I morphed it in with this, and I'll try to see if I can find it. He came to see me a week or so ago, and I don't know where it is. So I don't have it. But anyway, I took his and basically added some lots over here, again, consistent with the UDO. So this plan does allow for the UDO to be expanded based upon its current configuration. The only real difference here is the UDO showed a group of townhouses here and here and here, which this plan does not show. As far as one other question, I mean, it's got a lot of green space here and here and here and all down through here. So it's a pretty good amount of green space. I can't tell you the exact percentages, but obviously as we move along, we can get more detailed in all of that. It's just, from my perspective, we just hit a stone wall about a year ago, and because of COVID and confusion, this just really hasn't progressed. So I'm anxious to meet with you, Twana. I know you and John, and you're both friends, and whatever, my client's more than willing to do whatever is necessary to be part of the community, provide community open space, provide connectivity, provide a mixture of housing if that's what you want. This UDO,
were those alleys there for rear parking? Or not necessarily?
Yes, that's for rear parking. There along this main street, there would be no house that has access on that street. So it would be totally unobstructed. No driveways at all.
Okay. Ms. Carolyn? Unmute you. You're still muted. You're still muted, Ms. Carolyn.
Hello, everyone. I have a very deep concern. I watched the news the other day, and they mentioned Franklin, Brentwood, Mount Juliet. They never mentioned Antioch. We are not a good market for homes. People are coming from New York, California, et cetera, that want nice homes. And I remember John Stern said, we should be making expensive homes rather than stack up homes. So I would hope that the developers realize that to be available for New Yorkers, Chicagoans, Floridians, that we need to make better homes. And we also need to make single-story homes because the senior citizens are also coming to Nashville that don't want to live in stacked up homes. So I have a very deep concern about that. You said there will be 66 homes. Am I correct?
Well, based upon this sketch, nothing's formal at this point, but based upon this sketch, yes, 66.
So if you made more expensive homes and make the market better for the newcomers, I'm pretty sure you could still make the same money instead of making stacked home or attachable homes. I'd like to see Antioch mentioned with Brentwood, Mount Juliet, Franklin. On the news, if you watch the news last week, the woman said, I'm here from California and I'm looking for a home and I can't find one. Hello? That concerned me. We're building homes everywhere and she couldn't find a home? That's what she said on Channel 5 News. I can't find a home. So we need to be in the market for the good quality homes. John Stern said that, and I agree. And you need to build 1 story, maybe 2 story, maybe 1 story. Senior citizens are coming into Nashville, and they don't want 2-story homes. That's just a suggestion.
Thank you, Ms. Hatcher.
You're
And
very welcome.
I do want to say, I'm going to give other people, I think you may have answered Tawana's. I will say as well, that is one of the reasons why I asked Roy if they were open. So instead of just looking at what he has here and his client have here and talk about how you don't like this or don't like that, if it's something particular that you all have that you want to, give it to them. Tell them what it is you want to see specifically, or what on here they need to remove or whatever. So they were open for that. I'm sorry, somebody had on here regarding the road. What size is the roadway, and will on-street parking be prohibited? Where will the visitors park?
Yeah. Well, generally, we'd have to look at the UDO again. I'm gonna go back there again. See if I can find that again. And what happened to it? Did I get rid of it? Have to open it up again probably. While I'm looking for this, I'm going to talk to Miss Carolyn again, I guess. So this urban design overlay was really sort of established based upon, it is an urban plan. Here it is. And so you can see the street network on this plan. There are cross sections of the different street types that would occur here. And I'm sure there's many different street types. All of them have.
Hey, Roy.
No.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
That is actually on page 21, right there. So it's going to be the green cross section, which I just did the math, but somebody might want to double check me. 22. Wait.
No, you're right. It was green.
54. It would be a 54 foot right of way with a 6-foot planting strip and a 5-foot sidewalk and 2 16-foot travel lanes. I do not believe that we would permit on-street parking there. They would be required to meet Metro code, which would depend on the number of units.
So generally, whenever I do a plan like this in an urban setting, and you've got open space, I'll generally add some parking there, like some parallel parking or some perpendicular parking adjacent to open space. So it does allow people a place to park in order to access the open space, but also maybe for visitors to park. But I think on-street parking is something that would be discouraged within this UDO, as I understand it. But this is an urban design overlay. I talk to people from New York and California all the time. I'm building a house in Florida, and oh boy, have I had a hard time finding. Everybody's going down there and they're paying cash for everything. I'll be 68 in June, and I don't want to mow a yard. I don't want to do that anymore, but I would like to have a single level house. So this UDO provides a mixture of types of lots You can see along the perimeters adjacent to the subdivision, these are large lots. And these are conventional lots where you would actually have a driveway in the front and probably predominantly single family, single level or maybe two-story level homes. And even in the center, you say there's large lots in there. But then in areas, there's smaller lots as well. So this UDO provides a wide parameter of building types. Just because you have a smaller building doesn't mean it can't be superior quality. It can actually be really superior quality. Because you're building all this infrastructure, you're building all these roads, you're leaving all this open space, you're not going to be able to do all this infrastructure and build a house that's going to be moderately priced. So most likely the houses in here are going to be substantial in price.
There was a question about if you had put in place walking trails and that type of thing with some more green space. And if you contacted the schools to see what kind of impact it would be on the schools. I don't know who people usually contact. They usually contact somebody and ask about school impact, and they get some ridiculous number because our schools are already overcrowded now. So if we get a number like it only impact it like 2 or 3 students, that I'm going to tell you wherever that came from, that's crazy because our schools are overcrowded now. But that's in the chat. And just for you right quick, Larry, I've been working on that doggone light at Hamilton Church and Mount View for over 2 years. They tell me that one is coming, but okay. Go ahead, Roy, with the walking trails and everything.
Yeah, so this sheet, if you can still see it, you know, it shows all the open space. And here's the triangle that we're working on, and there's 2 areas of open space. So even on that sketch that I had prepared, I basically allowed someone to walk from Mount View Road through the park, you know, between houses up to another open space. And so there would be a network established so that people would be able to walk within this community as it develops from one open space pocket to another. And just conceptually right now, this is how the UDO identifies where the open space would be.
There was another question in the chat that talked about, because I know in a lot of meetings we have said that there is a need in this area to have housing that is geared towards the older generations. Have you considered doing some age restrictions? And I don't even know if that's the right term for it, but having something that is more for older segment of our community?
Okay, well, you know, we are obviously in discussions with everyone here to try to come up with something that people are comfortable with and want. There are, and there would be larger lots here adjacent to the existing community. And so those would be areas that would provide the building or the housing stock that you're talking about. You know, I don't know that they could be age restricted. I don't understand the legalities of all of that. But if you design a house, you know, to be geared towards to be used by someone like myself that doesn't want to go upstairs or have a multi-level house, I think if you build those houses, the people that want that particular lifestyle at that house will probably wind up being there.
Other comments or wants?
Council Lady, it's Billy.
Please, Billy.
I got a question. I imagine it'll go to Amelia. Carolyn's comments raised a question in my mind. I thank her for that. Looking at it strictly from a legal point of view and not really a marketing point of view, if you had a neighborhood similar to this one that had $200,000 homes in it, and someone wanted to come in, say this gentleman, and put $500,000 homes in that area, are there any restrictions on something like that, or how would the planning department view it? And then look at the opposite side of it, and if you had $500,000 homes in the majority of this area, and someone wanted to come in and put $200,000 homes in there, how would the planning department respond to that?
So the planning department will actually not control the price of the homes. Really what our task and our job is to make sure that, you know, in this case, in an area with very specific design standards and a built and what the homes are supposed to look like, it's our job to ensure that the homes look like that. After that, in terms of price points and selling points, that's not something that we can really control.
Thank you.
So the lot sizes, the housing square footages, the heights, the materials are pretty much outlined within the UDO, and so that's about the only way you can establish, I guess, a particular price point. You can't legislate something by price, but you can more or less legislate it by the size, the style, the finish, and all of that. So, and based upon those parameters, based upon the cost of the open space, the cost of the infrastructure, which all has to go back into the house, it's going to force you to, you know, to do something that's not going to be 200,000. No way. It wouldn't happen. It couldn't happen. There's so much that has to be done here. I think we're pushing it in the other direction.
Well, what were you looking at as the price point on these homes?
I don't have a clue. It's going to be dictated by the UDO. I would have to think that, I mean, it depends on what you have. You've got smaller lots, you got, you know, smaller houses, you got larger houses. I can't imagine that anybody could get under here for less than $250,000, but it would probably push 400 or 450 or even more.
Especially the material.
I mean, I think that this UDO, if it ever really gets moving in the right direction, and there's, you know, some development that occurs and it gets sort of some kind of traction, which I think this could do with my client's property and then Mr. Finn's property, which would be this huge triangle right here. I think that's going to set a pattern so that you'll have a development here that you might hear about on the news. You might be mentioned as having a really cool urban design overlay. I mean, for years and years, all I heard was Lenox Village, Lenox Village, Lenox Village. I don't know that the houses back there are that great, but you know, that's what you heard a lot about. This has got a better potential than that development, in my opinion, based upon the tight parameters in which planning and the community set forth on this UDO to provide the connectivity, provide the open space, to provide the variety of building types. It's a really good overlay, and maybe it's a little pricey, and that may be why it hasn't really happened. That's just sort of my opinion on it.
Roy, make sure you're looking kind of in the chat too, because there's another one that talks about your use of building practices to keep the area undisturbed. And so instead of me trying to read all, and then two more came.
Okay. I don't know if anybody else is, I didn't even see this chat section. Wow. Let's see. I see Twana here, John Stern, road size.
Roy, at the end before this closes, you can click that file button and save the chat so that
Okay.
you have people's comments too.
Oh, that's awesome. And I will look at every single comment. I mean, I really want, and I think you know that, I went to Antioch High School myself when Antioch High School was over on Blue Hole Road, okay? And so this is sort of my stomping grounds. And when I went to school out here, we didn't even have a Hickory Hollow Mall. We barely just had an interstate. So I've seen this area change for the better and for the worse. I'm here to help any way I can. I think everyone knows that. I attend a lot of meetings out here. I think most of these questions have been answered. Did I miss something here?
Some of them did. Go nearer to the bottom. That one that I was reading hasn't been. And I have not been contacted by any of the other property owners that they were ready to move forward. I see that question was there too. So Amelia, I don't know if you have gotten anything from planning on some of these other ones about trying to move forward, because they are all, this is an agricultural area. So if they were going to do it to something else, they would have to get in contact with us.
I was contacted by the adjacent property owner, and that happens a lot. I get a lot of phone calls about people, all throughout Nashville, wanting to develop, and I generally try to steer them in the right direction based upon the council members, what they want in their particular districts. So I pretty well know. I see one question here that I like. It's intriguing, I guess. Talking about Antioch changing from agricultural to urban. What happened to planning the needed infrastructure? And that's what I hear a lot in Antioch, that it's lacking in infrastructure. I know at one point in time we had an infrastructure deficiency program. I don't know what happened to that, but it's something that probably should be considered again in some of the rural areas that are being developed. I don't know that we consider this that. Let me see if I'm missing something else here. This would all be done in phases. It would be cohesive because the UDO would set the standards of how each section was to develop. And the fact that this property might be one of the first ones, since it's along the perimeter, it's really the only way it could happen. I don't know how you could go in the center of this property and work outward. So we're sort of work from the perimeters and moving in, which I think is the proper way to do it. And it's important too, and I understand the council member's concern there, is that this sets the tone. And so I know you want to get it right. And so, we have the time to do that. And I want to help y'all. Let's help each other, try to find a way to make something good for your community. I know John and Twana, that's what y'all do a lot of. I'm here to help. Like I said, my client would be willing to enter into, some kind of agreements with the community to provide assurances that you would all need. And in some instances, since this is we can modify the UDO. That's something we can certainly do. But if there's some other things that need to be done in another manner, other than a legislative manner within the council, we can do that too in community agreements. We just need to make sure the council members involved in that process.
And I really want to make sure that the people in that area know what's going on or involved as well. I know we sent the email out to everybody in the email thing, and we send announcements to people in that area, but I really want them to be included as well, and not just a small group of the community.
So I guess Darius White, I got a comment there. So anytime a development occurs along a thoroughfare like Mountain View Road, traffic and parking looks at that. They try to determine the impact your development is going to have. And then there may be incremental improvements that may need to be done as a result of that. You've got so many little entities that would be involved in, and if this thing was developed fully, I'm not sure how that would happen. Maybe money goes into a fund somehow, so there's some great level of work that occurs at some point in time. I don't know, but that's something I think happens through this process. And I think we can identify that and make sure that that is incorporated in whatever final decisions are made.
That's a small road that you're talking about too. So I hope part of the conversation, nobody has brought it up yet, is also doing something to that road, maybe even some turn lanes, but widening that stretch of road, because more cars, more homes mean more cars, and that's going to be more traffic in that area. But again, that's a piece of, he said he's open. So go ahead. I need folks to talk to him about what you would like to see.
Where this green road sort of bifurcates the property, that is going to provide a pretty good access to the remaining portions of this UDO it develops. So I'm sure that there'll be improvements required, turn lanes or widenings, especially on Mountain View Road. At that point, I'm sure that would be a part of whatever we ever come up with.
And so there's only a couple of minutes left for more questions. I believe I see Therese has her hand up, but I will let you know, Roy, what I was talking about weren't things maybe that were required, but things that people were wanting to see if you were trying to help with the infrastructure. Okay, go ahead, Therese.
I've been muted. Can you hear me? Thank you. So the one building from a challenge, because roads is so narrow back there. Be significant. I think Antoinette, in a year and a half ago, you invited somebody from Metro out to come out. He was giving not have continuous sidewalk.
Okay, say that again, because what's happening is you're cutting in and out.
Sure. If you recall, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. If you recall, about a year and a half ago, you invited someone from Metro to talk about sidewalks. And the reason they indicated we could not have sidewalks, or we wouldn't, it would take a long time to get sidewalks, is because of the narrowness of the road and the amount of work it was going to take. So just saying we could put a turning lane in or we could widen the road really doesn't work for those roads, Hamilton Church and Mount View specifically, as that's already been studied by Metro. And we keep going back to this whole thing of overcrowding in this area, density in this area, lack of infrastructure, lack of schools. If our schools are already at 127% overcrowded, what is this going to then do by bringing more housing into the area? Why I guess I'm concerned about why we keep revisiting more and more density when we're already overcrowded and already have significant infrastructure issues that aren't solvable quickly. We've been asking for a traffic light on that particular corner of Mount View Road and Hamilton Church. Antoinette, what did you say, for 3 years, and we can't even get a traffic light? So I guess I'm just wondering, it just feels like we keep getting invited to the same meeting, and I'm sorry, Mr. Dale, you know, that you're the developer this time, but really our concern is with Metro and them providing the services that are needed in this community. And so we just keep communicating and reiterating the same issues over and over and over about the significant density issue, the overcrowding in our schools, the lack of infrastructure, our roads are crumbling. Mount View Road and Murfreesboro Road is flooding now because of the apartment complex. They're flooding down into the Thorntons. So I'm not sure what the conversation is or where we come to this point. We've clearly communicated we're not interested in any more housing in this area until we get the infrastructure to support what's already here. So I guess that's more of a statement than a.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay, do we have anybody else that has any questions or anything? I will say we have about a minute left to go. I do not think this is at a point where we could say, oh, okay, it's presented and everything's hunky-dory. I think because it has been presented the first time, this time very well, that maybe the next time we will have more questions. And I do want to see more conversations in this particular area where this is. Some of the points that Therese brought up, I will say that there are areas where things are already zoned and people can build. There are things where, well, like a lot of things can go into agriculture. You'd be surprised some of the things can go into agriculture. But I would rather people not just build. I want them to come to us. I want us to hear what's going up. I want us to say, yes, we can like that in this area. No, we can't, like, we don't like that in this area. You know, there was a bill up to try to prohibit more building in this area that didn't go through. So since there is no way to do that now, and you do have people who do have land and have bought things there, we can't say we don't want anything else here. What I will say to you is when people come to me and it's something that, because you never know what's going to be good and what's not. So I'm going to bring it to you all. So I am going to have meetings. I'm going to bring that to you. We'll just have to keep pushing and we'll have to keep talking putting things in the hub, and we'll just have to keep having conversations whenever we can about the infrastructure here and how it needs to be improved. Do I have anybody that hasn't talked before that would like to do another farewell question? Did we ever get anybody from the mayor's office to come on? Okay, then I would like to thank Amelia from the planning office for coming. I think you were very helpful, and perhaps even in some of our other meetings, we can have somebody from planning here to help us. John, did you want to have anything to say about, because you're wearing two hats, you're doing water and public works. Did you want to say anything or offer anything?
Well, I just want to, as always, thanks for allowing me to join the family of District 33, a very vocal group. Just let you know, July the 1st, I will be assuming, in addition to my current duties, I will be considered the official trash man of Davidson County. I will be overseeing the solid waste division, your trash and recycling. So that'll give you all somebody to fuss at when trash is not picked up on time, starting in August. Give me a month to get it behind, and then you can fuss at me. So thank you so much, Council Lady.
And thank you always.
Can I have a question? You mind?
Yes.
Okay, so, we can meet again, which is fine, but just time is not going to help answer or any of these concerns. So, I mean, I'd really like to reach out to some people within the community that can help me come up. I mean, otherwise we'll just wait another month or two and I'll come back and we'll talk about the same thing again. So I'd like to have some guidance or be able to talk to somebody. I guess I could reach out to you individually. And if there's any organized group out there that you think I could talk to, I would do that as well. So that when we do come back again, maybe I can provide a little more detail or insight on specifically answering some of your concerns or some of your questions. So is there anybody that
we can talk to you? I can talk to you a little bit about that after this.
Okay.
If we can do that.
All right, thank you.
Okay. And Rosie as well, I want to say always thank you for helping. And all of my faithfuls that have been on our calls and everything, it looks like, we've got quite a few people. I haven't even been able to have my regular community meetings where all of the districts come in and provide you with some information, because I know some of the district divisions have wanted to come in. So I'm going to have to do that. So I'm going to have to also get some other meeting dates. I think I told you all once before, somebody contacted me. They're interested in looking at the Starwood property again. So there are some things that I do want to bring to you all for you all to look at and listen to. So I haven't gotten those dates yet, but just my newsletter and on Facebook, I'll try to put some more dates together for you to put in your calendar, because we're going to have to do some more meetings, especially now that we're only having one presentation. And hopefully we'll be meeting person to person soon. And when we do that, then I may still have person to person and online, because we're having more people join when it's online. So I guess I will say just thank you so very much, everybody. And look forward to seeing you at the next meeting. And I want to ditto all of the congratulations on here, John, for you. And thank you again, Amelia, for coming. And thank you, Roy. And everybody have a good afternoon. There's still a little sun. Go sit out on your porch and have some sweet tea. Good night, everybody.